How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. We're about to get into part 2 of my podcast with Sharon Blain, Candy Shaw, and Sonya Dove. We were having so much fun that we went a little bit long, and now you get to reap the benefits of more of these amazing powerhouse women. If you haven't heard part 1, do yourself a favor, give that a listen, and then come back so you don't miss out. Let's get back to part 2 with Sharon, Candy, and Sonya on Headcases. You know, this is one thing that I'm always interested in is I watch you ladies and you give and you give and you give to the industry. Sometimes, and I'm just, it's my words, but it might even be when you say to a fault. It's just you give and you give and you give. And one of my teachers had this expression that said, and he talked about life force particles. You know, because when you're constantly giving, it's like, you know, the life force particles. I always imagine like when you see that everybody's made of dots and then you kind of get these dots are drawn away from you. Sometimes they use that visualization in different characterizations. But I know that sometimes when I'm giving all the time, and, you know, and you come home at night, and you're just like drawn and it's like you've had everything pulled out of you. And that's when I talk about life force particles, like they're pulling this stuff out of you. What do you guys do to replenish? Because you got to have something to get your life force particles back. But what do you guys do?
Sleep.
Oh, God bless. God bless.
Well, Sonya dances and goes to yoga. I already know hers.
Yes, you do.
Yes. Mine is probably a lot of rest. You know, the power of no. I think that's what helps me. The power of no. You know, even on the road, people say, "Can I go to dinner? Let's go to dinner. Let's do this." Yeah. And I say, "No." You know, I have that balance of, you know, I set those boundaries, I guess. But to really replenish my soul, it's spending time with my family and my grandchildren. And I know Sharon has the same beautiful family that she gets to get them out there to hose down her mannequins and clean them in the garden. And, you know, it's laughter too. And you know, when I need a good laugh, I mean, I pick up the phone, I can call either of these ladies and just, you know, get just howling. And I think too, you know, when you feel down, you make down decisions. And so I try really hard not to let myself stay there. I make an appointment with myself to get back up. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy doing the things that we do, whether you're building a brand or working for a brand or teaching. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's hard work. And I think just the power of no is important because you will make terrible decisions by being strung out too far. And like you say, the serotonin suckers, you know, they just suck it out of you and you have nothing to replenish your soul. But friendships and relationships, I think that's the most powerful thing that I love the most. No amount of money could make me happier than to look at these two beautiful women and to know they're my friends. You know, that's where it's at.
Oh, Candy, that's lovely. Wow. That really is.
True.
I'm always very lucky that I'm always on a flight that's never less than 10 hours. And I'm very also blessed that I can sleep those 10 hours. The minute I get on that flight, I can fall asleep. So sleep is one of my saviors. But to be honest, the next day when I'm home, if I can't get a grandkid fix, I'm feeling like I had to drive the other day to have a fix because my daughter was busy. I said, okay, I'm just going to crash over there because I just need to have a fix with the grandkids. You know, I think we're so blessed to be surrounded by beautiful family and children and grandkids. And they really, my children keep me absolutely, you know, solid. My son will say, Mum, you don't need to do this job. You know, you don't need to enhance your name anymore because, you know, I'll say, oh, such and such is happening. Say, Mum, how much are they paying you for that? Oh, no, I'm not. No, no, you're not doing that. You don't need to do freebies anymore. But, in a way, it's I don't know about you women, but through lockdown, one of the most significant things for me was the isolation, and particularly for the 2 years that we were locked down in Australia. So we didn't have a flight leaving Australia for 2 years. Oof, and I never realized how much the students gave me. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing, we are giving all the time, but their response and their appreciation for what you're giving them, I didn't even put that together until I didn't have it. Yeah. And as you said, Sonya, on social, when you're doing online, you don't get that feedback. But when you go in, and I was talking to the guys in Weller last week, because the very first class I did after lockdown was in the Weller Academy in Toronto, and beautiful Faye, we went out to dinner, and I said, I will never forget that after 2 years and me finally going back into the classroom after 2 years, the emotional outpouring, not only from the students because they were finally in a class. Some had booked this class 2 years prior and they had their tickets were on hold, but I didn't realize how much they gave me. What the students gave me back, and I walked out of there feeling, oh my God, this is like what I've missed for so long, that relationship, the appreciation of what you're sharing, their will and their drive to make the tasks that you've set them the best, so I'd be proud of them. But, they gave me so much more back. I don't think they realized how they filled my cup. So, it is a very interesting situation that I think we're in. And I mean, the value of students and the feedback, I think the family environment and the friendship. I mean, I culled a lot of friends years ago because when they take my energy, I don't actually need them as friends anymore. They were using my energy. So I only want to surround myself with people that give me absolute happiness and joy. And so it's a handful of people that give me that. So they are now my nearest and dearest. But, the family and the children, I mean, we're so blessed to have that. Yeah. That's what definitely keeps me going.
I love it.
Well said, Sharon.
There's so many pearls that you guys talk about that I've got all sorts of stuff written down in here. And I just find it just amazing that if we all just sat back for just a minute and just thought about what all of us got out of this, like what Sharon just said, is that, is the giving, it was the give and the get. You were doing the class, but you got as much out of it as they did. It helped. And validates is a wrong word, but it's the only word that comes to my mind right now. But I just think it's when you see that you can help to change somebody's life. And that's when the discovery that they make actually is truly profound and probably worth more than any amount of money that you got paid for the class. I'm not saying for a second you shouldn't get paid for it. I'm with your son. No. You do that and you get paid because you can have both. I come from a world of abundance. But what's your guys' take on when it comes to abundance versus people that come from scarcity or whatever? What's your takes on that? Because I'm hearing everybody, all of you are give, but it's at the end of the game, you got to still make money.
Well, I think all of us are very simple in that regard because we all built our careers on doing it for nothing. My dad said, you want to learn, get in the model prep room, volunteer your time, get back there, don't demand anything, and I think that's really the foundation. When we talk about foundational hairdressing, I think what's really important to note is that all of us have built our foundations on giving from the very beginning. And I know Sharon will give away her wisdom to people. I know Sonya will do it. I even argue with her over it, because I've got that business mind and I'm over here trying to run her, and her little roadie, and help her, with that. But I think most of us would agree that we have an abundant life, but our life is full of it's money makes you more of what you already are.
Mm.
And so it makes you more of what you already are. And that's why we're successful. It's not the amount of money, it's not the followers, it's not all of that. It's that, we are good people and we care about people and those relationships. And you're absolutely right, Sharon. I remember exactly where I was when I went back to the classroom after lockdown and how exhilarating it was.
Yeah.
And to your point, I didn't even realize what it gave me. I always focused on what I was giving them.
Yeah.
Mm.
I always focused on, can I be better than last time? Can I do something better? Can I, that was always my focus. And then I realized, wow, Candy, the teacher really does learn more than the student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Sorry, Sonya.
No, go on, Sharon. Sorry.
I was going to say, and that's the one thing when it gets to that pointy end of the ship, and it's that word called retirement. How does one live? How does one live not getting their cup full of these wonderful, appreciative students? How does one cope with that? Because, you basically close the door and say, oh, we're done now. And then it's like all those students have gone and you're now left holding, a glass of wine and a, tottery old man. And it's like all you have is memories. All you have is memories of those days. And it's, when I'm constantly asked, and when are you going to retire? When are you going to stop doing this? My children the other week could not believe how many bags I was leaving the postcode with. They said, who's going to carry them? And I said, well, I'm going to carry them. They said, you can't do this any longer. And I'm thinking, but you don't understand what this industry does for me. Yes, I'm giving, but by God, I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm getting. And I don't know how one ever closes the door on that, because it's so powerful, that whole the way we synchronize with the students and the education.
Well, I mean, Sharon, you've had more comeback tours than Cher. So
I know. Now I'm on the one.
Let's be honest.
Now I'm on the one.
And that's what I admire about you. I'm like, God, yeah, she's still out there doing it. And I get it.
Still.
That was my father too. It's if you think about like a really amazing coach of a team, or somebody who, coached a sport and forever. If you think of like a Bear Bryant, who I know you don't know who that is, Sharon, but they go their whole life giving back to the team and teaching the team to run the play and all the things that you get out of that. And how do you replace that? How do you replace that? That love and that passion. And I feel the way that you feel, like, when is enough? I mean, I still work at the chair. People don't even know that. They're like, what?
Yes,
you work at the chair? I'm like, you better believe I do, because that is literally my lifeline to my student. It helps me practice my skill, but it also helps me relate to what I'm teaching. And how to make fundamental decisions through consultation, and how you're doing that. And so I don't know, when is enough? But I guarantee you this, I don't want to feel like an old rock and roller. And I've got that in the back of my mind from my daddy. But
my God.
I will not be that person that y'all are over there talking about me in the bar going, oh, for the love of Christ, when is she leaving?
No.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
You really triggered that in me today, Candy.
Yeah.
Because, it's always the way when you've done a big trip like I've just done, and I've been home. Yeah. Today was the very first day I woke up at a reasonable time, because the jet lag is absolutely real. The 2 o'clock, the 3 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, the 5 o'clock. And today I got to 7 o'clock this morning. I thought, oh, wow, I'm back in the zone. That, and on top of, the bag unpacking, the repacking, the new plans, the new things, it's overwhelming sometimes. And when you are a bit of a one-man band, like Sonya and I have a very small team that support me. And I'm the brains. I'm like the ones making the idea, and they just put it all into action. So it's now this morning I was energized because of a new plan. And that's why I got a little bit late coming on today. But, so when I get a new idea, I'm like, I'm on fire again. And I feel like I'm now just taking off. But when you come back from it, when I put that last massive bag on top of my bags in the airport after the carousel, and this woman looked at me and she said, "Oh, my God, how do you do that?" And I said, I'm thinking it might be the last time I do it, but something's going to trigger and you just forget about it. You just go off again.
Yeah.
The thing that came to my brain when you were saying that was, there's that old expression that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But sometimes for us, it's the other way around. It's when the student learns, that's when you get your, I'm going to say jollies, your validation, you see that light bulb in what they have, and you just know you affected that person for life. Or when they come up to you 10 years later and say, you changed my life by teaching that ponytail, by showing me how to do that French bob, by doing that collar technique. And you go, oh my God, I didn't even, I don't even remember you, but thank you. But, the fact that you changed somebody's life, that's what I think, that's that eternal flame that keeps us going,
Oh, those little Instagram messages, private messages, because I get to be the person to answer them. Just today, a lovely girl who's been in my class quite a few times said, I just had to say to you, I was in London Fashion Week and I looked at my work and I looked back and I looked at every angle, I looked at the face shape, and I thought, thank you, Sharon, for teaching me and really encouraging me to look at the finer points of hairdressing. And she sent a beautiful message. And I thought, I was so glad that she'd taken my information on board and actually put it into practice, because it's obviously made a huge difference with what she's creating. So, when you get those little words and those people coming back, giving you positive endorsement and thanks and praise, you don't want to stop, because there's so many more people that you still need to pass that knowledge on to. But it's it's the flesh.
Sonya, how long was your first standing ovation when you broke away from Chris Dove and you were doing your first show? I'll never forget. She stood. She finally, I don't want to say arrived, because that's not really, she worked her whole career on such incredible things. But, when she broke away from that, you still talk about that pivotal moment of being that educator on stage, and they just stood up and they were just like, wow.
I remember it as if it was yesterday. It was wild. Yeah, and it was interesting because Chris, you said abundance. I think abundance comes in many forms. It can come in money. It can come in lifestyle. All of us, we try and work the best we can work for ourselves, because you just want to, like, Sharon, you need to get someone to carry your bags. Okay, that's for sure. Oh my goodness, woman. That like breaks my heart to hear you loading all those bags. But you do reach out, but you do need help from people, and it is a struggle when you're more a one person thing. I don't know how to say thing company. You know what I mean? But I think the abundance comes from what both of you said. It's people's reactions. People like hearing that you changed someone's life. Like, just think about that for a second, that you can change someone's life. That's a really, really big deal. That's such a big deal. When they're feeling like, they're coming out of the industry. They don't want to be in the industry anymore because they've had so many knocks. And then you just give them a few words of encouragement, which comes naturally to these two ladies and myself, because all we want to see is people live their best life. It's that simple, personally and professionally. So the abundance comes from the things you get back, like Sharon's message this morning. Now, I sort of question that a little bit internally, because is that ego you know, and I have this internal question, and I'm being honest with both of you. Is that ego driven? Someone telling you, oh, you changed my life and you did this for me or that for me. But looking at these two, it's not coming from an egotistical place or myself. So there is that fine line. There really is of it.
Well,
you know,
the industry is full of that now, the ego.
Yep, I know.
Let's
That's
face
fine.
it, you know.
Certainly is.
It's hard to navigate. You know, it's hard to separate the treasure from the trash.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, Candy, you do that well.
Candy.
I mean, it's so true. It's hard to separate the treasure from the trash when you're out there and you're young and you're saying, this person is so fabulous. Why are they fabulous? Because they have this. No, you don't understand. You know, so I get it.
I'd like you to write a book called Candy's Quotable Quotes.
I've been saying that for years.
Because
I have about 5 or 6 candyisms down here already. So
no, you do. Your one-liners, the way you say it just puts it all in a nutshell. No, you have an amazing ability of that.
Well, I got it from my daddy.
Yeah,
if you ever gave up hairdressing, you could be a one-man comedy routine.
Yeah.
Could be your next.
I'll go to that show.
Hey, listen, if I fall on hard times, don't think I've thought about it.
You know, Sonya, you just said something that really hit me hard, because you were talking about the people that were out there and you didn't use this word, but that's what the word came to my brain was that they're doing these things and they get burnt out. And and I think that there's that thing that goes on in our industry where whatever it is, whether you're doing the same thing over and over, whether you get caught in a loop, whether you're worried about home life or whatever, and you're just worried about, you're just getting burnt out at what you do, and you're no longer doing what you really truly wanted to get in the industry for, and it becoming a chore.
Yeah.
What's the advice that you would give to people if that is, I always use the word niggling. I don't know if it's a right word or a Canadian word, but it's in the back of your brain and you're feeling burnt out and I don't like what I'm doing anymore. What's your advice to them?
Well, burnt out is a reality. There's two things in there, Chris. Getting burnt out is real. It can happen and it can really creep on you before you know it, because you're just going and giving. Mm-hmm. Candy said earlier, you just got to learn the word no. If you learn the word no, that will save you. I love that. Candy's always saying to me, in fact, she only just said to me 4 days ago, you've got to learn the word no, when I saw her in New York. And so she's been saying that for many years. So that doesn't come easy for me. So being burnt out is one thing, but then the other thing you mentioned is doing something mundane that you're always doing. That sounds really boring, really does. I'm sorry to say, Chris. So if someone feels like that, they are not doing the thing that they are loving or they're passionate about. You can't, because if you're passionate about something and really love what you do, it doesn't seem like a job in a way. It doesn't. So they're two different areas. Getting burnt out, you just need to take time for yourself. Mm-hmm. Self is first. If you don't take time for yourself, you're going to get burnt out. Sharon said it, being with the family and the kids, listening to a son saying, you know what, do you really need to be doing another this, another that? And Candy as well, with the same, having the pressure of being in the footsteps of her father. So there are two scenarios there that you could get burnt out easily, but both of them manage to keep stable and keep still going forward because they love what they do. So if I'm talking to someone and they're feeling, oh, this job's mundane, or I don't really like it and it's boring, the word boring, I don't think I've ever been bored in my life. I'd love to be bored. I would love to. I really would really love to wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, I'm bored. What shall I do? I don't think it's ever going to happen because I'm not that personality. I don't think these two ladies are that either. So it's look at what you're doing, because if it's not juicing you and making you function, making you jump out of bed every day to do what you do, then you're probably not doing the right thing. And you need to have that own self-realization with your own self, because you can't hear it from someone else. It's never going to work.
I always tell people, because my office, a staff member might walk in and say, oh, I'm burned out. I just don't know if I want to do this anymore. And the very first words I say is, you need to go to class. You need to go to class. The only way you reignite your fire in this industry is through education, innovation, mentorship. That's what, yes, we plug into it too, to Sharon's point. But I think sometimes when people get to a level in their career where they feel like they've kind of arrived, I don't think I've ever arrived. I mean, it's not a finish line, and it's not a sprint. It's a long marathon. And anytime I feel uninspired or feel burnt out, and of course, to Sonya's point, you do get tired. I try to get in the classroom. I try to inspire my brain with something. I try to read something, do something, see something. Any way I can continue to teach myself is when I know the magic is going to refuel and reignite my flame. And yes, the power of no is important, because you do have to have a work-life balance. And the biggest hot button right now is self-care, right? We all have to work mental health and self-care. And I know that we're a bunch of thoroughbred racehorses that run, but we also know how to have fun, and so we're good at that. We're workaholics, but we're funaholics too. I know this girl right here, she travels all over the world, to beautiful places to inspire her mind. She's going to Iceland on Sunday.
Lovely.
I live vicariously through it.
I'm going to see the Aurora Borealis. It's a dream. It's on my bucket list. I have to see it. I colour. It inspires me, but I've not really seen it strongly enough. So hopefully it's going to happen.
And we're going to see the work that you create out of seeing it. That's what I'm looking forward to. Sharon, what does that mean for you?
Well, I'm just listening to these girls, and I feel that, I think it's keeping your inspiration. I get, I had this quote called "You're used by date." And I spoke to a young group of people on Monday at a little staff conference that I was a guest at. And I think one of the things that people expect to keep them motivated is somebody else to light their fire or to turn the light on. And there's a very young people at the conference. And I said, you can't expect your boss to turn the light on every day to inspire you. It has to always come from within. And the only way you can keep that light on is your constant drive and determination to be better than what you were yesterday. And I know as a salon owner over many, many years, there's been people that have stayed far too long. And what these people that have, their use by date was up, and yet you still keep trying to keep them there and offer them this. But you think, at the end of the day, what they're doing is dragging their team members down. They come in, like you've got to try and bow and kowtow to them to try and keep them happy. But they're not even doing the right thing by their clients. They're just doing repeat, and nothing's changing. And then they wonder why their client base is dwindling away because they're not offering anything fresh and new. And they're pretty boring to even have around. So, I'm always about this use by date. And I think, it's something that we need to consider for our motivation and our inspiration from anybody, as you were saying, that, are tired or bored. Look internally, look at yourself. and don't expect other people to light your fire. It has to come from within. And if you are not able to do that, then you should not be in our industry. You're not doing anyone any favors. I'm sure there's a job up the road at the local supermarket or the local cash and carry for Sally's or wherever that might be, that'll give you a job and you can go into retail, because you're not doing any good in our industry by having that sort of attitude.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
The whole quit and stay. There's so many people. I mean, again, I run a 50-chair salon, and this just permeates with me like you have no idea. The inmates can't run the asylum either. You have to be very, very careful with that. And so many times salon owners get caught in a trap.
Yeah.
Of having to feel like they have to please everyone. And it's really hard, because right now our industry is not, we don't have a labor shortage. We have a talent shortage.
Yes.
It's a big difference. And, and so it's really difficult to make those tough decisions when you're out there to be strong enough to let somebody go. But, what's worse, you train them and they leave, or you don't train them and they stay.
Yeah.
So you got to spend the time on educating those people, because indeed it comes back to you. Look, every educator I've ever had to teach for my team, I take the class along with them. Mm-hmm. I know you ladies can relate to the time when you go to a salon owner and you're going to teach a class and you say, oh, well, what can I do to help you to motivate your staff? And they'll say, well, I just need you to inspire them. And I just need you to do this. And I just need you to do that, because they won't do this. And then you ask them, are you taking the class? And they say, oh, no, I'm not going to be taking the class. I'm going to give that to Holly or, Sally or Mary. I'm not going to take the class. I said, well, it starts with leadership. You can't inspire people if you're not doing what you're asking them to do. It's just that simple. And I think that's a hard thing in the suite rental industry, and again, this is nothing against it, but it's really tough because you go and you get isolated and you're not feeding off of those things, off that isolation. It's really, really tough. So I say, when you feel burnt out, go to class, get in the trenches, like-minded people.
Yeah.
And one thing I always add to that is I always liken a train driver to driving the train. And when the train stops and the driver stops driving, everybody wants to get off. So you'll be sort of, salon owners will be saying, oh, I'm losing a lot of staff. And I think, well, you're the driver. What are you doing to keep them on the train? And it's all about education. But if you're not willing as a salon owner to take the class, then how can you possibly expect anybody else to do that?
Absolutely.
This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. Yeah, and even if they're not a hairdresser, I'm always I'm more inspired by the owner, even if they're not a hairdresser, that they're still a part of the team taking the class, than the other way around. So and this kind of sets it up for when you guys first started, what was the best thing that furthered your career? And I'm not sure what that is or what I mean by it. Was it a kick in the pants that somebody gave you? Was it an inspiring moment that happened in your career? Was there a thing that happened that spurred you on? what was that thing that at the beginning of your career, if somebody's listening right now and they're going, well, I have 3 powerful women here, but I could never live up to that. But there had to be a catalyst. There had to be something.
For me, my catalyst is being one of having 5 brothers. And my dad always thought my brothers were absolute king. So as a daughter, I always felt like I was competing with my brothers. And my dad just idolized the boys. So I was always wanting to impress my dad. I always wanted to prove to my dad that I could have his acknowledgement of me doing something great. So that drove me a lot. But when you're a country hairdresser and you can't get education in a small country town, it was always very difficult to achieve. I'd read the trade magazines, I'd look at all these people winning competitions, and I always believed one day I was going to make sure that I was that person in the magazine. And when I was in that first magazine and I could show it to my dad, I think then and only then did he realize that, wow, you're doing so well. And, it's a crazy thing, but it's been a mindset from a very young kid that you always I've always wanted to get my dad to show appreciation for what I was doing. But the boys always got the pat on the head and the girls were just, well, you're just the girls. So it started very young for me. And sadly, the day we buried my dad, I felt a great sense of relief because I didn't feel like I had to prove to him anymore that I was good enough. But it still drove me to be better. So, sometimes it's these like stuff that happens in your childhood that takes you to drive yourself more. It could be a word from somebody saying, you're hopeless, you're not good enough, you shouldn't be in the industry. I also had that as well. So that was, they were fighting words for me. They were the drivers for me as well. But, it's probably different for everybody. But for me, it goes back a long way for me. I don't have that problem anymore. Thank God. I've shed that a long time ago. But I think there's a lot of young people out there that may have felt that they were never good enough and they always had to prove their worth. And that's how they've probably gained that ability to be great at what they do.
Sharon, just before we pass it on to one of these fine ladies, you said something there that it's always the one that really bothers me. And I'm not going to say who said that to you because that would be unfair to that person. But, you had 2 lanes you could have picked when somebody said,
oh, yeah,
what are you doing? You're not worthy, whatever that thing that people try to use that as a sword. And I think one of the lovely ladies here said that earlier, that, the words you use can be a sword as well. But, think about, and I think that I challenge, what would that have meant? What would that meant to our industry if you would have said you're right?
Today,
and then you would have held back.
I think today, if somebody this was a past boss that sacked me. So I was sacked many times in my lifetime. So don't get me wrong. And I mentioned to you many times that I was a bit of a cheeky person, so I was a little bit challenging for any salon owner to employ. But she basically said she didn't feel that I was capable of being a hairdresser, so it was probably better for her to let me go now than to pursue my career. And, the day I got my first Hall of Fame award, I actually thanked her profusely because if it wasn't for her with those words, I would never have got to the level of hairdressing. Those words never left me, and that's what's driven me to the person that I am today. So I took that road of I'm going to prove you wrong. But sadly enough, a lot of people might take that and take it to heart and basically, throw themselves down and not ever get up. So it depends. It's the mindset of the person. It's how you choose to absorb that and what do you do with that sort of word.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Ladies?
Sonya, I'll let
Candy.
you take it.
No. Oh, you go next, Candy, because mine's similar to Sharon's.
Well, my obviously I relate to Sharon because of the father figure, but also I had a learning disability and I was dyslexic and I could barely get through high school. I had to cut hair in the locker room and trade for math homework. I never went to beauty
Wow.
school. I never went to college because in Georgia I didn't have to. You could apprentice. And so I had so much more to prove because I felt stupid and dumb, and I built my entire team on hiring people smarter than me that can do the things that I can't because I struggle with those things. And those are those little demons that sit on my shoulder on a nightly, basis that tell me you're not good at math. But I was really happy when the trend was girl math, that's for sure. But for me, there was just a lot of things that, when you have a learning disability that you have to prove harder. I had to work harder than my brothers who were very, very, very smart. One went on to get a PhD, one went on to get a master's degree in engineering. And those, to live in a household when you have these brains and then you are just the creative one that wants to go to theater and wants to be, do the improv night and wants to do all these things, which at the time might look like someone who could never make money and would become a starving artist. And then of course having a father who was so decorated that, you can imagine, and being a male and then being the female, I remember the moment that my life changed in a way that I had always been known as Jameson Shaw's daughter. Everywhere I went, oh, that's Candy, Jameson Shaw's daughter. And I remember the moment, the pivotal moment when it was, oh my gosh, that's Candy Shaw's father. And it switched. And people were introducing him as my dad instead of me as his daughter.
Wow.
And I worked really hard to, like Sharon said, make him very proud, although he supported me through everything. And if hairdressing wasn't my shtick, he would have been fine with that. But I do feel that each of us, each person has an internal devil that just sort of eats at you and tells you, you can't do this or you can't do that. And I would say to you, yes, you can. I said the power of no a moment ago. I wouldn't be where I was. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't told me no in my career, you're probably a nobody. All the people that have thrown bricks at me because I'm a woman, because I, couldn't or shouldn't or, in a man's world, so to speak, I'm standing on that foundation now. And that's, I'm very, very proud of that. But it never goes away. It never goes away. You always remember those things because you never want to fall back into that trap.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so interesting how we've all got a little bit of a similar internal DNA type thing, because mine's a bit similar to Sharon's. When I was young, I'm the eldest of four. And so my parents put it on me. You're the example. You're going to be the one that guides them on what to do and everything. So we all went to school and I left school with 10 failures. My parents were mortified. Whereas I have a younger brother, and then two younger sisters. And when I did that, I never forget the words as if they're right next to me now. My parents said to me, you're going to be nobody and you're going to end up working in Woolworths. And Woolworths is, I don't know if anyone knows Woolworths. It's a store in England. It's a funny old store. It's been there forever. But it wasn't the best place in the world to work, put it that way. And so when they said that to me, my own internal fight, because when I told them I wanted to go to be a hairdresser, they were not happy at all. They wanted me to be a nurse. They wanted me to be a personal assistant or a secretary. Goodness knows why, but back in the day, that was a cool job to have. And I'm just not that person at all. So all I heard was, you're going to be no good. So the internal fight for me was, I'm going to prove to them that I'm going to be great. And that's all I've done all my life, is just prove to my parents that I am someone. And ironically, my siblings now, we're very, very close as a family, but they all can't believe how far I've got with hairdressing, this hairdressing, doing people's hair, how far I've got, and I'm just so passionate about it. But it is, it's the same thing with social media. Someone told me years and years ago, they were telling me about social media, this new thing that's on the phone. And I was like, oh gosh, what is that? And they were saying, oh, it's no good for you, Sonya. It's more for younger people. Well, game on. Okay, they were the words I needed to hear. That's all no good for you, it's for younger people. Well, I put up my sleeves and I'm like, right. But it is that internal, I think we've all got that fight then. And I didn't know that about them.
Yeah, you can either rise above it or sink below it.
Yeah. And it's lovely to hear Candy and Sharon's feedback, because I think we've all got the same thread, to be honest.
I'm not whether everybody has one of those little voices in their head that they've heard that has inspired them or, ignited the flame,
It's true.
I love what you said about Woolworths. And it was imported, I think, because we're part of the Commonwealth as well. Yeah. I think it was imported into Canada as well with the same kind of status. And there was a and I don't know who said it, if I said it first or somebody else said it, but we would always say you can't buy taste at Woolworths, and yes. and because it was that kind of store, but I think that's the we always talk about the tangibles that you have in our industry, and you talk about the intangibles. Tangibles are sometimes the skills, and it could be debated either way. But I've always said that there's two things. You can teach skill, and you can be surrounded by taste, but it doesn't mean you're going to take on taste or have a good eye. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the common element that I see in all three of you, is that you have this impeccable taste for the quality of the work that you put out, and you just have a great eye at recognizing it. So, I realize this is going to be a really tough answer, but if you could do something to a young person that was just starting out, and you could just say, how could I help them improve their taste and the eye that they have for beauty, what would you tell them?
Well, I will start off by saying I don't believe I ever developed a great eye for styling. I always knew the techniques, but how to make something look wow. I feel that came from my learning with floristry, and we discussed that last time we spoke, Chris. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because on Monday when I was doing this presentation, they gave me a lovely bunch of flowers, and I looked at it straight away and broke it down for them. And I said, one of the things you have to learn is find a focal point in your work, the part where your eye is immediately attracted because it's beautiful. And I said to them, this bunch of flowers, this one rose is so beautiful that I can't take my eyes off it. And that's what it is. So you don't confuse the eye with a lot of other stuff. So if you've just got one beautiful wave, one beautiful shape, that's what's going to get people in. But you don't ruin it by adding half a dozen braids, pass all these crazy colors and, crazy makeup and the whole, the kitchen sink, basically. So learning to find a focal point of beauty with your work, and the eye is attracted to it. We all know what that looks like. We're judging a competition. I've just finished 2 lots of judging in the last 2 weeks. Someone says, oh, my God, it must take you forever. I said, no, it doesn't. I just look at that picture, and does it catch my eye? Is it beautiful? Is it, what is the focal point? Is it busy? It's so easy to actually work out what's the winning look and what's not the winning look, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So learn to maybe just Google a little bit more about doing floristry, and just look at some of the key elements of the principles of design and other principles of this is associated with that. I think it'd give you a good lead in to analyzing getting a good eye.
Absolutely.
Well, I totally agree with that, Sharon, and that is exactly right. But I do also agree that sometimes the most simple of things can be the most beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really ultimately what you're saying. I mean, when you think about this industry, when we tried to simplify our teams by, whether you're going to wear black or whether everybody's going to look, the same or what have you. When I built Sunlight's the brand, it was one color. It was just yellow. It was just one thing, one product, one thing that was simple. And people thought I was crazy about it. So I would say to anyone trying to get taste in their life or really understanding great hair or understanding that is you have so much noise going on. Like you said, you don't need the braids, the makeup, it's not shooting popcorn over the other side. I mean, you just need the simplest of things to find the beauty in a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone that you're trying to express. I mean, some artists can paint 3 strokes on a canvas and it could be worth millions, zillions of dollars, but it's the simplicity of understanding what not to do. And that's what I would say to everyone is just, I think the thing that has made all of us successful is we understand the difference between what to do and what not to do. And we stay in our lane and we don't try to be what we're not. I can't be Sharon. I can't be Sonya, and they can't be Candy. We know what we are good at and we do that. When my father in our business, when people were putting boutiques in the front and selling clothes and purses and candles and jewelry, my father said to me, he looked over his glasses. He said, I need you to make me a promise. And I said, what is that? He said that you'll only do what is beautiful and what is about this industry, that you'll never succumb to the noise of being selling purses, and I think that's what happens is people just get so diluted with everything that they think they need, but you really don't need a lot to be successful. You don't need a lot, and taste will come when you find the beauty in simplicity.
Yeah, no, both ladies said amazing things. I think as well, something that I found I struggled with when I first started is to learn like less is more. Because when I started to enter competitions, I had like 20 ideas of what I wanted to do on the head of hair for the competition. And I would just do it all. And it looked like 20 ideas just thrown on someone's head. So I think it's stepping back and focusing on just one idea, because even now I challenge myself. Sometimes I want to do like 10 types of different color on one model's hair. And I think, no, I'm going to do one. I have to just do one. Which one shall it be? Because the voices are saying this idea, no, that idea, no, this one, that one. And so your internal dialogue can be your enemy. It really can. And listening, what I've learned over the years is I used to listen a lot to those voices in my head. And now I'm trying to drown that out a bit and listen to my heart, because I know my heart and gut, my first instinct of doing something, I usually try and stick with that, because after that, then this says, oh no, we could do this. Oh no, we could do that. So it's all this internal dialogue. How do you teach that to someone is a whole nother story. That's the hard part. We know what it is.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. How do you teach someone? Because when they've got all those great ideas and they want to do everything on one head of hair for competition, you can see it when you look at the image.
Yeah.
You can tell they did not know which idea to pick on and focus on. It's so you seeable, you can see it.
Yeah.
So, but is that teachable, really? What do you think, girl? Like, Chris, right, I'm taking it back to you. Do you think an eye is something that you can teach someone, or do you think it comes from within? I'm just curious.
Well, it's great, and I think we all agree pretty much on the same thing. To me, I think taste and your eye comes from your environment, and it's what are the people that were around you that helped you, because you're going to just take on the taste, the feeling of people that you surround yourself with. And I think you ladies said that at the very beginning. You were talking about what's the people you're surrounding yourself with. And I think that's where to me, in my mind, I got the taste from the industry greats that were out there who I never knew the difference between a mentor, a coach, and just a teacher. But to me is like everybody can have a coach, and you can have a mentor, but unless that person is actually physically, I used to think, when people would say, "Who's your mentor?" and I would say it was like Trevor Sorby or Anthony Mascolo. They didn't know me from Adam. They weren't my mentor. They inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the people that were around me that have liked mine, that they're the ones that helped develop my taste. That Trevor and Anthony inspired me, but it was the people around me that helped me. And I mean, another lovely lady that's out there that you guys all know very well known in our industry, and as Chris Sorby, and I worked with her for years, and she inspired me. And she would always say, she would say to me, "Chris, is that clever?" She would say, "Look, it's interesting, but is it clever? Like, did somebody look at that and go, oh, I never thought of that before?" And to me, that's where that was the hook that really helped me in my career. Is if I'm doing something, I always try to think of, is it clever? Is it something that has never been done before, or you just did it in a different way that was really clever? And I don't know, it made it sound like a whole lot of poppycock in there, but it meant a lot to me.
You say that because all three of y'all have done a lot of competition work.
Yeah.
I haven't, even though my father was a competition hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
So what you focus on in creating these shapes and these beautiful stories, they're so inspiring. Like when I look at a collection that Sharon does, or a collection that Sonya does, or any of those people that you've mentioned, they have a common denominator in their story, and that is their cleverness, like you say, but also their beauty and what they see in beauty. But someone like me that has no desire to be in a competition hair market, I guess, I'm always looking at, can they make money at it? Because I mean, I'm looking at something from a salon owner standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint, from an educator standpoint, is I'm out there helping an industry that is made up of 85% women who are trying to take care of their families, who are trying to earn a better living and have a better life. So I focus more on, what can I teach that student to help them, ignite their soul, yes, but more importantly, to work smarter, not harder, and how can they make money at it? And, I know that's kind of a very shallow way to put it, can you make money at it? But it's literally because there is so much noise. I try to dumb it down. I try to say, hey, let's relax. We don't need to be all things to all people, Every tree doesn't have a million branches. We need to just focus on what we're good at. And I try to inspire people to find their brand, and find their messaging, and find that. And when they do, it doesn't matter, they'll never work another day in their life, and they won't even look at their paycheck because, like the saying goes, when the flower blooms, the bees will appear, and they'll be able to be successful.
Well, ladies, I just have to say, I just let that speak for itself. I've got so many nuggets that I wrote down here, and I have to say, this didn't go the direction I thought it was going to go, and I'm so happy because I just thought, when we first got into this, and I said, let's first of all have a glass of wine and let's talk about this. But when you get three intelligent people that have the commonality amongst themselves and really are giving vulnerable, authentic people, there's so much to learn from. And I just want to say thank you guys for just being on here and having the candidness so that you have to really help people understand who you are. And I think that's going to make a great difference to the industry and the people that are going to listen to this. And I just want to do one last thing, and just to say, whether it's, 10 o'clock in the morning in Australian time, or on the East Coast, or in Mexico, or here in Phoenix, we all in different time zones. I just want to say that I'd like to just pose a little toast to three super great people that helped us support our industry. And I love each and every one of you. And I promise this, that one day we're going to all sit down, whether it's together or individually, and have a dinner together, because I've loved the time that we've had together right now. So thank you all so much, and cheers.
Cheers.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you.
Please don't release the blooper reel.
Listen, that'll be top of the list. There is no promises on any of that's coming out here. I think that's going to be the best stuff. And one day when we're alone in a room with no cameras recording, I'll tell you some of the bloopers that I've had and jokes that was played on me when I was on camera. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much, just for giving up your time and your energy and your knowledge and making our industry grow and be better at what they do.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Ladies. Big hug.
Bye, gorgeous people.
Yes.
And for those of you listening and watching, all I have to say is this. I know that this was going to be a hottie, and I'd love to get your feedback and your reviews. And you just go on whatever format you're on and give us a review. It's always nice if they're 5s, etc. And just leave a comment if you want more of this and want more things like this, just so we can bring more to you. Just please leave comments for us. But ladies, one last time, I just have to say good luck, God bless, and I love all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.